I'm here recording a podcast. You know the drill. Or if you're not knowing the drill, I just talk about stuff. Isn't this a great intro? Aren't you engaged? That's what happens sometimes when you're off the cuff. You're just kind of like, how else can I introduce a podcast? I mean, last week I told a story. The other week I was just ranting. What's today gonna be? Oh no. I know what it's gonna be. First of all, my tripod just shifted. Oh no. I just won't fade in the image yet. Hold on. I'm gonna start the podcast and then adjust the camera. So let's do that because we'll talk about something today and it'll be fun. Audio listeners are like, what is he talking about? I can't see it. All right, here we go. The Snedeker podcast. Oh no. Oh no. Oh boy. Well, that's not any better. It's gonna fade in. Okay. Or it'll hard cut to right now. Here, hi. I am just doing so well, apparently. Everything's working. My tripod is pretty average. It's not anything special, so that's why it's kind of breaking. But hey, function, it still works. Is it perfect? No. Is life perfect? No. Life is never perfect. You could be at the top of the heap and you're like, but what? I don't have any friends. It's like, well, that's what happens when you're gatekeeped and locked in a precious gold embedded bird cage of a lifestyle. I was like, I don't have any. Well, what does my life really mean? I don't know. Go explore it. How, you know, like you only get one life, folks. They tell you that. They tell you that in, Hallmark cards and bumper stickers and some person who put that quote by a picture of a sunset for Facebook moms. Like, it's all there. YOLO. You only get one life. So I'm going to go on 700 trips to wine country. As maybe that's your want. I don't know. Who am I to tell you what to do? I'm just a dude. I'm on the totem pole. I'm on a lower rung of a totem pole than most people. I'm a freelance musician. It's like, what do we even do? Do you even know how to work a normal job? Do you know how to work in a normal job? Yes. Yes, I do. You think it's hard for me to learn retail at Target? No. It's way harder for me to continue to just say no to all of the, all of the shortcuts, apparently. That there aren't any shortcuts in music, really, unless you've got, I don't know, money. Like, or you started when you were 2 and now you're just like a killer talent by the time you're an adult. But that's not even a shortcut. That's still, you're still doing 10, 15 years of work, depending on how young you started. Anyway, I don't want to tell you what to do. YOLO is the perfect example of how people how people undervalue the things that they do in life, because there's, you might get settled into a routine and things might feel safe and normal and it's fine. I'm at the point right now where I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my soul that I am going through a transformative period in my life. Because, as I've mentioned, the health and wellness journey, the weight loss, all that stuff. But also, there's been a push and a pull to return to my roots as a classical musician. Not obviously like a full-time career thing, but to get back to the discipline of practice with the added knowledge that I have now, the thing I was taking for granted for so many years with practicing is that it was easy. You practice towards a very clear, definable goal. You have pieces you have to learn for recitals. You have juries. You have, nooks and crannies concerts to prep for stuff with other ensembles. And then you might have your own gigs where you're doing, background or you're, rehearsing some music. But, you take it for granted that practicing there's a goal. It's so easy when there's a goal. And when there's no goal other than the intrinsic value of understanding the art form and the vocabulary, some people are, they've always done that. And people like me, you get burnt out on practice. When you've spent with my undergrad, I've mentioned this before. My undergrad, I was in a practice room a lot. I was that person who was like, I just gotta, if I do the most work, I'll be ready and it'll be great. And it wasn't even for competition reasons. It was just to make sure that I didn't fail or, everyone's investing in me. I gotta perform and succeed. There's that pressure to prove that, hey, I do want to do this. And I know it's going to be hard, but here's how hard I'm working and here's what I'm able to do with it. So now comes the point where there's a shift in my thought process of learning for the sake of a goal and learning for the sake of learning. Because the more I can glean from musicians, vocabulary, all that stuff, the more it adds to what I like doing, which is, performing, collaborating, talking about stuff. But we're at a point where I'm turning 29 this year, next month, in fact. And it's actually in a couple weeks from when this episode will come out. But it's not so much 30, it's a crisis. It's more of all right, let's the 20s were kind of floating around and having some fun, having some doubt, having some, some growth, having some ups, some downs, it's, some degrees, some hours in the practice room, on the road a little bit, it just in and out. Now it's time to push it to the next level where I feel like every little thing I put out into the world has some sort of impact. And not even, I'm not trying to be like, hey, I better get Joe Rogan numbers or this podcasting thing ain't going to work. No. Impact, I'm happy if it impacts just the area around me, because the support system in this region is strong, and it's, I've always wanted to be involved in this type of capacity where I'm hey, talk to me about music. I want to help you figure out this tune. I want to help you record this song. I want to, play music on your record or whatever, I've wanted to do those things. And now that I'm getting close to 30, you can't hide in your 20s forever. You can't just float and think that everything's going to be okay, or that, it'll just happen. Things will just happen. Nothing's happening. I mean, things are happening. I'm not saying I haven't made any progress or people aren't supporting me or, try to be like, why does no one understand my art? Because I feel supported. It's more of, for me, there are things that I want to happen for me that I need to help initiate. And I have to get the ball rolling. I have to do the work. And I think especially, I don't want to be that person that's like, all right, we're going back inside, lock up the door. It's good. I feel like it's coming again with, the new strain and all the variables around the pandemic in general, especially for the music industry, where nobody has to go see music. That's the thing. At the end of the day, if the world were to plunge into chaos and everything's on fire, nobody it'll just be a symbolic gesture of they're busking as the world ends. It's like the Titanic, the string quartet playing as the ship is sinking. Like that's what that's what I feel like some people think about, their relationship to art, because it's so we're such an overworked culture that doesn't, always explore what art really means. Art is a commercial thing. It's you can have like, oh, a graphic designer designed the aesthetic of this brand. That's a form of art. Or someone sang a cover, at a music awards show of a song to the person who wrote the song, who's a legacy artist, like Her did with Elton John, and that was good. Benny and the Jets, classic tune. But that's what some people think art is. It's just this constant cyclical, like, I gotta pay homage to the greats, but I also have my own songs, and it's like, sure, that's doable, but it could also turn into, hey, I only want to hear songs from my generation. Like, it becomes this very, like, I don't know, like, you don't want to say it's selfish, because selfish it seems very strong. It's a very strong term. I would say more personal. Like, it's a very music's a very personal thing to some people, and I hear it all the time on weddings. We'll play a tune that's like, we'll play a set that has like songs from the 50s, 60s, 70s, some of the 80s, even the 90s, early 2000s. Like, we're just hitting different decades. Most of the time, you're getting some soul, some Motown, some funk, some dance music, some sing-alongs, some slow dances. And then, we'll DJ some stuff that's in like top 40 or, more current within the last decade. And then inevitably, there's always someone who comes up who's like some old guy who thinks like he's the only person who's ever thought of this ever. It's the same person. They just walk up, you're in the middle of a conversation, and they look at you like, all right, enough of this conversation. I'm talking. And you're like, okay, what's up? So I just don't get the kids' music today. What is I'm a child of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I can tell you are old. You're an old person. Why would you don't have to explain that I grew up at a different time. Yeah, you are older than me. I can see that with my eyes. Like, you were, what? You look 25. What are you talking about? No, I could tell you're from a different decade. It's okay. But then they go on and they're like, I like the classics like Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and I, Jimi Hendrix. What a great guitar player. Yes, they're all great. All of them are great. You don't need to tell me that. You don't need to tell me that. Why? What you get? What a profound statement. Led Zeppelin, a band that literally no one can escape from because they've set a standard for how people should observe classic rock. Like, you're telling me, wow, what a hot take there, sir. Your experience. I gleaned some new information from that old wisdom of yours, telling me that a band that the literal planet fawned over for decades, like the Beatles, has somehow had a cultural impact. Like, I'm just here to play tunes. It's like, if you have a problem with the music, talk to your daughter, your niece, and I don't even know how he was related. It wasn't the father of the bride. It was just, I think it was an uncle. It's like, talk to your niece. She made the playlist. It's got that. She wanted all the stuff with just sub. She just wanted sub to kick her in the face and just jump. That's what she wanted. That's what she picked. That wasn't us. We give people the option to pick, there's always, it doesn't matter if it's freelance or with an organization, you want to have that flexibility. You want people to feel like, hey, I'm planning this event. Let me pick some tongs. Let me pick some songs. Let me pick, a playlist. Let me do that. I'm fine with that. I don't need, why would I? It's not my job to impose my artistry on a gig that someone's paying me to do what they want. Like, sure, it could be a little much sometimes. You get a bridezilla every now and again who's just like, it's my special day, and if it doesn't happen, you're all dead. And it's like, okay, let's dial it back. Why are you mad? We're literally, like some of these weddings in Petoskey that are like, They overlook the lake and the sunset. The sunset, everyone, the sunset on the what? Yes, the sunset. How many sunsets do we have to see? Every time I look at a sunset, I just get reminded of how beautiful life is. No, you don't, because you're about to go say something that's not reflective of that. You're about to go do something that's not reflective of that. This week, you're gonna yell at a customer. You're gonna gossip about a neighbor. You're gonna like hate someone's dog for barking. Life is so beautiful when it's just quiet and lapping waves on a lake that I own, that's mine, and no one can see it. Like that's what you think. So, I'm all for weddings that, I don't know when this turned into a wedding podcast either. It's wedding season, so y'all are just gonna have to deal, okay? That's all the gigs I have. The thing that survived the music industry is, if you have the resources, you could tour. If you don't, you're probably doing a lot of wedding reschedules. Because that's bread and butter. That's like artisan bread and locally sourced butter. Like, we're talking, you're not buying Sara Lee and whatever Myers got discounted, like a Land O'Lakes thing in the back of the fridge. It's premium. You could feel like you're treating yourself a little bit. You get a little cinnamon raisin bread. Ooh, it's like dessert bread. But that's what's happening. We're all doing weddings. All of us. A lot of folks are doing weddings. But we can't underestimate the impact that a wedding is going to have, or like a person's going to have over a wedding. Like the bride and the groom are setting the standard. And it's weird because it's like they're planning an event that's for them, but also for a collection of people that they might know on a general sense, but they don't know how things are going to interact necessarily. There's always going to be a misfit table. There's always going to be people who don't want to dance. There's always going to be an older generation sitting on the sidelines being like, they're having fun. I remember when we had fun. And then they come up like, could you play a slow song for us so we could dance to it? Yes, it's in the set list. Wait, why? If you have such a wide range of songs, don't hire a band that specifically lists like, here's what we do. They're like, do you know any like Afro-Peruvian music? You think white people from Michigan know what Afro-Peruvian is? They can't even spell it half the time. Like, there's a few people in this state that have studied the rhythms, the language. There's cultures of people that know how to do that. But when you're talking about like the run-of-the-mill Midwest, hire some random dudes, you're gonna get My Girl, you're gonna get all the things, all that stuff. I explained it in the other episode about how all weddings are the same. But really, I'm back to the trajectory I'm on, and not just to complain about weddings this whole time. It's convoluted because it's further away from what people understand about the music industry. Everyone is going to have, some people get it obviously, but a lot of people who aren't in the trenches of the music industry, they're not going to understand why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. They're not, they might have some idea, but they're, like, why is he suddenly making more videos? Why is he so big into podcasting? Aside from I like doing those things, I'm also kind of sick of some of the conventions of being a musician, where like you're just expected to be like, like Sonic furniture. Like I mentioned that in another episode, like where you just kind of put in the corner and being like, oh, do your art somewhere else. Like go away. And someone walks by like, that was lovely. What was lovely? What? Do you recognize the song? Were you even by me? I have eyes. I didn't see you anywhere near me. Well, that was lovely. Have a good day. All right. Cool. Good interaction. I remember one time I played a gig at a bar that had a large custom like wider frame for a baby grand, and they used it as a tabletop. And so I was playing, and people would be seated at the piano, and they're at like the other. I'm just playing, not this road sound, but imagine if this is how the piano sound. I'm just looking at them. How's it going? Oh, good. Okay, cool. Yo, you want to eat? That's fine. I'll just look down. Like why? But it's a thing where because I've also been asked like, hey, why don't you teach? Why don't you teach more? One of the things that I'm updating with the Patreon is to just say in general, you have access to my time. I'm not the biggest. I think I'll explain this in another episode. I'll detail why I don't give lessons on the regular, because it's a multifaceted thing, and it might, it says more. I think it says more about me, but hey, we all have our focuses too. But I stray away from some of the conventional things because of the trappings that can happen. You get into academia, suddenly academia is your whole life, and you've spent countless hours in the same space doing the same things, and you're trying to get tenure, and you don't know if it's going to happen, and you're trying to find some sort of security, but you don't know if the department will be as funded, or you don't know if your job is secure, and you don't, because the arts are always the first thing to go. It doesn't matter if someone propped up a building with a renovation, they might just lay off all the staff. And sorry, my computer pinged, and I was like, what? Did something stop? And I get it. Some of you are like, but that's not how I feel. I love students and I love people. And yes, I liked when I worked at Allendale High School. I liked interacting with the students. I wish I could have been in a different environment sometimes, because it just feels like school. So you have that teacher student dynamic instead of how music really should feel. It's this like shared collective experience. And I had hoped that came across with those students, that I was, not as enthused at the time. When I was teaching there, it was also during an interim where I thought I was going to go to the New England Conservatory. So that whole year I was just like, man, what am I doing? Like, I turned down a big opportunity, and now I'm just here working at a high school. Like, what happened? I got accepted into like one of the most prestigious music schools in the world, not just the country, the world. People come from all over the world to go to the New England Conservatory, and people's careers are made there. Charles Cornell went there. I probably could have hung out with Charles Cornell, the YouTuber who's, he recently, I think today, just announced that he's a Kawhi endorsed artist, and they gave him a grand piano. You got to have some sort of success to have someone give you a grand piano, or just know the right people who, might be trying to get rid of one. But, Dami was at the New England Conservatory. Who else? Jason Palmer was teaching there. I've known him for, since the Aquinas Jazz Camp sessions I did when I was in high school. Like, I had friends who lived in Boston. Berkeley School of Music was there. I could have networked with Jesus Molina or like any of those dudes coming out of there. There's always that possibility. But if I were to dwell on all the what ifs, I wouldn't be making any progress. I would just be sinking into the pit of, oh, well, I could have been so. No, I can still do stuff. life is full of variables and uncertainties, and the only certain things you can do are, like, hey, what am I gonna do right now? I hit a note. Wow, super certain. I used my hands in my physical, corporeal form, and I hit another object in the same plane of existence, and it caused a reaction. I don't know. You get it. It's the physical. It's the things that, the people you interact with directly, the people you interact with, indirectly. You build a career that people are aware of you. They see you doing stuff, whatever. But there's also the real, like, I don't know, it's so hot in here. I'm just like, kind of like, ugh. But it's if I were to dwell on the progress I was making, or the progress I could have made, who cares? How would I live my life? I would be dwelling in the past, and that's a thing I don't want to have to do. I want to be able to look forward to the future and also reflect on the fun things along the way, because every artist's story is different. Justin Bieber gets scooped up on YouTube and he has a career forever and ever. But he also has the ilk of the entire world, as much as the rabid fandom of the other half of the entire world, which is probably crazy. And then, there are people who, like I mentioned Jason Becker, where he like lost all his ability to play. And he still has some foot in the music world while he is still alive, which is crazy. Like, he can't move, and he's still in the music industry. Like, he has no ability to do anything but move his eyes, and he is still in the music. Let me say that again. He cannot do anything but move his eyes, and he is still in the music industry in some capacity. So if you're sitting there going like, I don't know, I just can't be John Mayer. It's like, well, John Mayer is John Mayer. There's no one else that's going to be John Mayer. There's going to be people who are going to compare themselves to John Mayer or use his name as a way to say like, oh, his music's kind of like John Mayer's. And then someone who's like, I've heard of John Mayer. And then they perk up and they're like, maybe I'll go see him and I'll have a new favorite band. Like that, it's all marketing. Like, that's why it's been so hard to market Earth Radio, because it's like, yeah, if you like Erykah Badu, like you'll get it. But there's some playfulness. There's some heavy, rock and metal-y type stuff. There's jazz. There's, all these things that combine to form a sound. So to say that we're like, oh yeah, we're kind of like Hiatus Coyote, but Hiatus Coyote is so distinctly unique that it's hard to compare them to. It's like, what about us is like Hiatus Coyote, that we kind of do like genre jumping neo soul-esque funk fusion. They have, like, if you watch their Tiny Desk, Earth Radio is not that. Like, we're not super, aesthetic, costumed, set design, playful imagination to the fullest of extents. We're not quite there yet. We're getting there. Every year is refining the process of being in the band. So that's how I view myself, is that every year is a slow, like you can't just do like, like you can't make a statue out of marble, like if you remember the SpongeBob episode where he attends Squidward's like community college art class, and Squidward's just like you must be the marble, and he like does a little like tink, and then it all collapses, and then when SpongeBob does it in like one hit, it forms like a perfect image of like the statue of like David or something, and Squidward's like, it's beautiful. Like SpongeBob's just got apparently raw creative talent and the ability to make anything into, something fun or artistic, which is probably why I like SpongeBob on a subconscious level, as goofy as the show is. But now you also you empathize with Squidward, because you're like, yeah, this poor dude's just, he wants to explore his artistic creative vision, but he also doesn't have the talent. and he and whether or not that's like because he works at a fast food dead end job and just to pay the bills. I don't even know, like, what are bills? Like, can we get an economic breakdown of SpongeBob's economy? Like, how does he live in a pineapple? What is the real estate value of a house that you can buy in a can and then have it grow from a seed into a fully furnished house? Like, and the Easter Island head, like, did that fall to the bottom of the ocean? Did Squidward have to have that moved? How does that work? That the economy would be easier to explain than physics, because it's like, how are they driving? Like, how heavy are these boats that they're driving around underwater on the sea floor where they're able to still move at high speeds? Like, that's some future tech right there. And, but like I was saying, every year you just kind of chip away at what you want to improve. It's not all going to happen at once. Instagram makes it seem like it was an overnight success. You see a before and after photo of someone who's done weight loss, and you're like, wow, I just saw that. So my brain, your brain goes, wow, he did that all today. And it's like, no, the post was today. It was, 6 months of work and reevaluating a lot of areas of your life. And so especially as, we as artistic people are coming back into, more work and having to adapt to this landscape of, will things shut down? What can we book? What can we count on? Should I bank all of my money now and not have, any free time in the summer and just, like, hope for the best? Should I take less work and focus on health? Like, should I, be a bedroom producer for a year? Should I do remote work for a year? Should I get, a side job that can pay the bills now and, like, cut way back on shows until I'm more comfortable to do them? Like, there's so much nuance in all of this, and you can't change overnight. And people that think they can usually have, unrealistic expectations of the world around them. It's a process. It's being honest. It's being comfortable to admit that you don't have all the answers, which can be hard for people who want to posture in front of people. Dan Wheaton has a great shirt that I found the other day. Dan Wheaton, for those of you who don't know, great musician, singer, guitarist, lived in Muskegon for years, and played in a progressive metal band called the Omega Experiment. And I saw some of their shows at the Intersection. They did a tour in Europe. I tried to audition on bass for them. They ended up using Matt Ryan, which is a way better decision. But I was like trying to learn their songs on bass. And then I got a job doing being a camp counselor for the summer. And that helped earn me not even that much money. That was the annoying part. Is like I took it initially, like, I enjoyed my time and the people and all the stuff, but with the initial reason I took it ended up not being the reason I enjoyed, at least that time reflecting on it. I haven't done it since, but that's because I have other priorities. But at that time, it was like, oh, I'll make some money for next year. No, I made less money than I could have made gigging and, like, touring. I could have made more money touring and arguably having a better time because it would be more in line of what I like doing, playing music and using music to see more of the world in some aspects. Not that, I'm resentful of children, because that's not it's not the kids. It's, it's just, it's a moment in time. I'm glad I did it, but there's another what if moment. If I were to dwell on it forever, I'd be like, boo. But anyway, Dan Wheaton, last point. Dan Wheaton has a shirt for the Omega Experiment merch called, on the front, it says posturing is painstaking. And I just liked the design and the color at the time. It was like a not super dark, but like a prominent purple shade, like a royal purple, with a cool design on it. But as I started growing up, I realized it's a very artistic statement of, like, putting on a professional face wearing the right suit, wearing the right clothes, being the right person, adjusting your personality, adjusting your opinions, adjusting your thoughts, like trying to do that in a way that you think is going to make you fit in and then you think is going to lead to some future successes. You might just lose yourself in it. And I'm often in just like, plain colored shirts and shorts because maybe it's because I don't see myself as fashionable, but I also like just being comfortable, and I let, my skill sets and what I do speak for me louder than any 3-piece suit could, because half the time I see people in suits, it's for weddings and it's all temporary. It's like, who cares? Why does it matter that all of the people wear the same type of thing? The wedding I did the other weekend, it was so hot, half the dudes there were shirtless. Like, you had this scorching hot wedding, super humid, and everyone's just like, well, we gotta look nice. I'm like, I want to jump in a pool, and you don't have that. All of the people here are just over, they're borderline heat exhaustion and just drinking. So when I see that, it doesn't make me go, I want to look like that, professional and clean cut. Because usually all those people are just uncomfortable. They just look like they don't want to be all dressed up, and they're worried about their hair. They're worried about, oh, is it too humid? My hair, it's like, and then the whole wedding just becomes, all these things were supposed to happen, and then it was so hot, and then like somebody else is just like, I don't know why she was so bad. She looked lovely, and then it's like, yeah, you didn't have to do anything. Posturing is painstaking, is a good quote to remember. So, find the people you can let your hair down, or if in my case, up, and then, really, really dig into what makes us all human and what connections we can make as people. Because it ain't happening all the time when you're in like a business networking place wearing a suit. Some people do like that. I don't mind networking here and there, but I can't just expect all of my friends to be like, to put on their best selves, because I don't feel like that's friendship. Like, friendship should be this thing that has an ebb and a flow, and it should, you should be there at the, during the hard times. You should be there when it's good. You shouldn't just jump on the gravy train when it's overflowing gravy, when you didn't help build the train in the first place and you didn't check to see if everyone was doing good. Like, find those people that like support as much in you as you want to support everyone else. And on that note, I didn't really use this sound that much this episode, but I'm gonna have to export the file anyway. But anyway, that's behind the scenes. Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully you are enjoying these as much as I'm enjoying putting them together. And putting them together, I mean literally just off the cuff, talking about things that I think about because I have a lot of long drives. And the origin of this podcast was going to be car thoughts. And it wasn't really going to work because I recorded like probably 8 pilot episodes just to kind of get in a rhythm. And all you can hear is like, the air conditioning, the engine of the car, my muffler, like it's not how I wanted it to turn out. If I had a quieter car and a camera, a phone mount, I might be able to try it. I could use a lav mic and just see how it works. But anyway, thanks for listening. You can check out other podcasts that I do, Mitten Backstage, Life is a Piano. Both had episodes come out this past week, Friday, Saturday. You can also go to patreon.com/Snedeker. You can also go to DutcherSnedeker.com, see a bunch of stuff. Everything's going to be updated. I'm working on it. Everything's going to be updated by September 10. And if you're out and about in the Michigan scene, keep an eye out for Mark Lavengood Band, Earth Radio, Normal Mode. We got our album release coming in the future. There's a lot of stuff. So thanks again for hanging out out, listening, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Dutcher Snedeker podcast.